What's up, kids? Let's do some more Q&A. So you're here because you're trying to build your high-ticket group coaching or mastermind program, right? We're all doing done for you, one-on-one coaching, whatever you're trying to get your life back. This is a really cool question. All right, let me see if I can get the name right. I think it's Kaja or Kaja. I just want to make sure I'm right. Please correct me on your name. Love the way it's spelled. So glad you're in our community. So really good question. What's a good icebreaker question for someone joining your program? Or let's just expand that. Joining your program, joining your Facebook group, joining your LinkedIn community, joining your YouTube channel, whatever it is that you do out there, joining your clubhouse. If you're asking questions from stage and you're bringing people up and asking an icebreaker question, what's a good thing to do to get people communicating and talking? Now, two different segments here, okay? One is pre-sold, one is post-sold. And that's a clear distinction we got to make. So if they're not sold into your program yet, if they're in your community, then you want to ask a question that's, I guess, door opening and insightful into what they're trying to accomplish, right? Many of you who joined our community, I've answered a question or two, like, where'd you hear about us? What are you working on? What's working? What's not working? We do, as you can see, we do an enormous amount of free content in our community answering questions. Our goal here is to make sure that anybody with an expertise level that knows how to communicate can start teaching and sharing that in a one-to-many model. It's a way better way to get your time and life back, change a lot of people's lives, and change your life at the same time. The reason we ask questions when people join any of our community outlets is to make sure that we're delivering content and answering the need where it's at. It's a really important thing. It's not creepy or pushy or whatever. Some people answer questions, some people don't. That's totally fine. I just want to make sure that if there's something people want to know, like, how do I fix this problem? We typically create content and answer that question within a 7-day cycle just for that person. I know, crazy, right? Or if we've already covered that in great detail, we point that person to other free resources that are in our community to make sure people are getting the help they need quickly. So, Kaja, I think that is the way I would go with that if it's a free community. Icebreakers, fun things, you can ask interesting facts about people, whatever you want to do. But I would definitely include something that really helps them say, hey, I'm working on this and I want to figure this out, because that's what's going to make your free or not a paying client group really effective. So you have a way to reach out to those people in a big way. In fact, your question, Kaja, is a great question, and you're not part of any of our paid communities right now. That's super cool. You don't have to be. We're here to support the community regardless. But this is a great example of someone asking a question and us getting to respond to that. Really simple. It's also a great, easy way to do content creation for whatever groups or communities you're leading. Hope that helps. Second group of this, if you're asking for icebreaker questions in a paid program, so they've already purchased from you, they're in your group coaching program, in your mastermind, in something where you're leading a group and they've already purchased being in there, then hopefully you've already gained a lot of insight into what you're teaching and what problems and solutions they need delivered. All right. So we're not as much in discovery mode now as we are just get to know you mode. I love asking questions that take people back to a different time in their life. All right, when people join our paid programs, we typically introduce them into a group setting and we ask them questions about things that were from previous times in life. Like, what was your favorite cereal growing up as a kid? What was your favorite cartoon character? Of all the birthdays you had, what was the happiest memory from all of them? Let's talk about college or high school years. So when you were between the ages of 17 and 23, what was the craziest thing you did with your friends? Let's talk about grandparent names. What's the grandparent name you think is the coolest grandparent name ever? Not necessarily one in your family, but one you'd want to be called when you get to be a grandparent someday. I like asking questions like that for people who are in our paid communities. Okay, the distinction there between unpaid and paid being unpaid, you're trying to find out where are these people at, how can I help them, right? Like what solutions they need right now that I can deliver to them for free or at a very low cost and make sure that I'm helping the world move forward, paying it forward, right? The paid community folks, you're trying to get a connection with them that brings them back to some place in their life where they remember who they were or who they are below and at a sub level besides all this businessy stuff or whatever it is you teach, and something that takes them back to a core value set they might have? That's a really cool question set to get going. If you can anchor people back into those core values that they believe in, or who they know themselves to be before they got all tangled up as an adult, or something that makes them feel empowered or great, or the person they want to be someday, that's a really cool connection because it gives you a platform or foundation to build on. That's the stuff that we kind of all have to go back to sometimes, realize, that's who I want to be. That's who I used to be. That's what I want to bring forward into this new thing that I'm starting. So that's how I do icebreaker questions. Also, all those little examples I just gave are really fun to hear. If you got 10 people sitting on a call with you in a Zoom room and you're asking them all about what's the craziest thing you and your friends did between age 17 and 23 or something like that, you're going to hear some really fun stories. It's going to give you a lot of like good emotional goodwill to run on, lots of crazy inside jokes for your group. It's just a really easy way to make those things happen. So I ask icebreaker questions that connect people back to their roots in a positive and empowering way. I come from a pretty traumatic childhood. Okay, this is not to bring this conversation down. So I understand that some questions can take people back to a place they don't want to remember. I get that. So it's important to think through your questions and phrase them in a way that makes it fun. So even if someone had some hard things happen between age 17 and 23, asking a question in ways like, hey, okay, everybody, your job is to tell us your name, where you come from, like where you are geographically located, what it is that you do, your product and service you offer, your market you connect to, and the craziest thing you and your friends did between age 17 and 23. That's a simple way to ask that question without going dark, but letting it be fun and just kind of uplifting and energetic. So things like that. That's what's the coolest superhero you ever dressed up as, a simple thing like that. That's why I like the grandparent name. When you get to be a grandparent someday in your future, what do you hope your grandparent name would be? Or what do you think the coolest grandparent name, if you don't want to ever be a grandparent, what do you think the coolest grandparent name is your thought? Anyway, what's up, Samuel? So great to see you. Samuel, one of our coaches here on the Elite Agency team, just, man, thanks for hanging out, buddy. It's good to see you. So you want to make sure that you're bringing opportunity for people to share something uplifting that connects them to their foundation. That's my answer to that question, Kaja. Hope you're having a great day, folks. That's it. Here's the bottom line of everything we talk about here. You are an expert. You've created so much good in your life because you've done the hard work to crack the code and figure things out. You watched the YouTube videos, you read the books, you listened to the podcast, and you failed 100 times to get where you are now. That's worth an enormous amount of time and money and transformation to people in your community. There are thousands of other people just like you on any platform you're on who want what you got. They don't want to go through the blood, sweat, and tears that you've gone through. They want to get the transformation without the 100 failures. You can help them do that. That's why we teach group coaching principles. It's great to be a consultant. It's great to be a done-for-you person. Most of us start that way, but it starts to eat up if you get successful and start selling, it starts to eat your life up. So we've built group coaching programs and even evergreen programs on top of that. But you got to start with the group coaching to get to the evergreen. It's just, you got to understand why people buy what they buy, why people buy from you. That's why we do this. You can do this. Go out there and share your expertise, folks. Pay it forward. You'll get paid well while you're doing it, but you're changing people's lives at the same time. Lean in, ask all the questions you got about that stuff. We're here to help. All right, kids, if there's no questions popping up right now, I'm going to jump off. You guys have an awesome day. As always, I can keep it up for just a second, make sure nobody's typing a question. You guys have an awesome day. Get out there and just push it forward. Man, you bet. You bet. So glad each of you are here. Thanks for hanging out and watching. Yeah, okay. Kaja, did I get your name right? Is it Kaja? I want to make sure I got that right. I freaking love the way that is spelled. Like I'm looking at it right now on screen. That is so cool. I just love the way that. So I'm we're all marketing branders of some sort here, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, we're all in some sort of telling story. Wait, I have a question. Okay, good. I'm waiting. But I love the way your name is spelled. I love double H's and D's. I know, is that weird? I don't think it's weird. I like H's and D's, like a tall letter with like a lowercase kind of connected to it. I think there's so much graphic art you can do with letters like you've got your name. Anyway, it's good to see you too. Okay, so yeah, there it is. Khadija. Let me get that right. Khadija. Love that. So cool. All right. You have a question, so fire one away, Khadija. I am listening. Um, looks like Wilman. Williman. I want to make sure. Oh, I love that name too. Moss. Miss Moss. Freaking love your name. These are some cool names popping up here, right? Chris is such a boring name. Oh my gosh. Love to hear how to pronounce that one too. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you on the community. Khadija, fire away that question whenever you can, and I will answer it. I know you're typing right now. You're doing great. Bottom line is, no matter where we are in our journey of building this one-to-many model, it's so important that we learn the principles of engaging organically. And Khadija, that's kind of the premise of your original question, is that you've got a connection point and you're building those icebreaker questions. As goofy as we think icebreaker games and questions are sometimes, they work and they make heart connection, and you got to figure out a way to make that heart connection. Okay. The name pronunciation. Willemijn. Willemijn. It's Dutch. Freaking love that. Willemijn. That's so beautiful. Nice name. Chris. Come on, Chris. It should be Tris, you know? I need a better name. Okay. Okay. Khadija, let's see here. If you meet someone that's your ideal client, what's a good way to start the conversation versus just going to the pitch? Of course, being genuine and providing value, but what have you found that works for you? And Khadija, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we actually do get to try to get to know each person in our Facebook group, me and my team. So I think you're actually teaching moms how to work from home and get their life back. Am I right? I think that's what you're doing. If I'm not, let me know. But ultimately, no matter who we are, if we find somebody, every now you bump into somebody, if you're on a podcast with them or they're in your community or you just meet them at Starbucks, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to help this person. They like so need what I got. Here's the good and bad truth of that. Getting transformation in our lives is a lot like going into recovery. If we're coming out of something, a hard relationship, chemical addiction, whatever, hard past, whatever, all that to say, we have to know that we need help. You know, the first step of recovery is admitting you have a problem. Here's the thing. We see people all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, we could get them 5 years ahead and make them tons of money and get their lives back like in the next 90 days. I know where they are. I've done this 1,000 times. I got this. But the person has to acknowledge that first or it won't stick. And Khadija, that's so important as you're building your audience and we're working in ours every day, is building the relationships and allowing people to understand where they are now and where they could be, where they get to take that first step and say, hey, I keep hearing you talk about this thing and I want something like that. Can I ask you more? And we always say yes. We don't ever push anybody into a sales pitch or a weird conversation. We like people asking us questions. It's either right for them or it's not. But ultimately, you're doing the same thing in your audience. You found somebody like, I know I got this. I can help this person. But you need to nurture that relationship, bring them in, help them see more of what you do, and help them along the journey. You know, if you think about where you were before you got where you are now, you had to go through a journey. You eventually, probably like most of us, got to a place where you were desperate enough to be like, dang it, I'm going to quit this job over here. I'm going to do this full time, or I'm going to start making the transition, or I'm going to hire that coach, or I'm just going to start locking down 2 hours a night after the kids go to bed to start working on this thing. Like we've all been there. And your person that you've met has to be there on their own, but you can definitely help them see, hey, here's what it's like on my side of the fence. It's really cool over here. If you ever want to know more, just tell me. But I would build a little relationship before you even do that. You know, none of us like having, you bump into like a high school friend, like if, years after high school, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this diet and it's changing my life. You got to do it. Okay. Here's the book. I'm going to go ahead and text you this book right now. You got to read this book. And oh my gosh, here's like 3 supplements I've been taking. You got to do that. And, none of us really like that. We're like fascinated for a minute. We're like, I, I just got off of like 3 weird diets last year. And I'm kind of sick of it for a minute. Just leave me alone. And that's life, right? So same with coaching and prospecting and helping people. see the way through. Great advice. Thank you. You bet. Super glad to have you in the community. Okay. Hope that helps, folks. You guys are awesome. Get out there and crush it. Share your expertise. Ultimately, prospect every day. If you take anything away from everything I say in this group, if there's anything that's made me and my group successful, it is prospecting every day. It is paying it forward like crazy. You cannot freaking outgive this universe we're living in. Prospect every day, meaning invite people to your community. Be out there. Let people know what you're doing. Invite them in. It's okay. People who want to know what you're doing will say yes, and they'll join in. People who don't will say no. It's not a big deal. So prospect every day. Pay it forward like crazy. And then show up and actually offer people a real chance to transform. They want transformation. We all do. It's usually just a matter of, am I ready for it? Do I know I'm ready for it? Like we just talked about. Can I afford it? And do I have time to do it now? If they're ready for it and you can figure out the pricing they can handle and a time frame that they can transform in and they can handle that too, you got a good connection. That's a really, really good thing. So get out there, prospect every day, give, and just be available to help people transform, help them through that process. You bet. So great to see all of you. Willamine and Khadijah. Now that I got the names right. Y'all have a great day and keep crushing it. Talk soon, kids. Bye-bye.